Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Flashback, Ben and Jack, the trip to hell. Ramadi. We finally made it through Fallujah and I assumed I would have a breather, but once again I assumed incorrectly. If anything, the fighting was worse than ever and the scumsuckers were further away, which made them harder to hit. I glanced at my ammo, realized I was almost out, and yelled, "Jack, I need more ammo." I didn't hear anything, not that I could hear much with all the shit that was going on, so I ducked inside and saw that Jack was passed out on top of the other gunner. I yelled at the driver, "When the hell did Jack pass out?" He yelled back, "Hell if I know. I've been busy driving this piece of shit." I replied, "I'm almost out, so I'm grabbing more ammo." The driver answered, "You're doing a hell of a job, so don't take too long." I moved Jack and the injured gunner out of the way, headed to the back, grabbed 4 ammo boxes for my deuce, and headed back to the gunner position. This time I was smarter and slowly slipped my head up while some rounds danced off the front shield. I saw where they came from, rose up and blasted the hell out of them with the last few rounds in my deuce. The slide locked back, so I knew I was out. I ducked back inside, grabbed a can of ammo, came back up and changed it as fast as I could. Then I was back in business. I woke up and swore, what bus hit me? Then I remembered that Ben nailed me with a morphine shot. I looked down, saw I was covered in blood, and feared the worst. Then I realized I was lying on top of the bloody injured gunner. I moved to the side and began to put pressure dressings on his wounds and yelled at the driver, "If we don't get your gunner to a hospital soon, it's going to be too late." Ben somehow heard me because he ducked inside and said, "Jack, you take over my dues for a few minutes and I will start in 4 for the gunner." I complained, "I hope like hell I don't have to change any ammo cans." Ben informed me, "You have a fresh can in my deuce, so you should be fine until I can take over. Here are the hearing protectors, now move your butt." I normally didn't care much for a my deuce, but firing this one while more than half stoned from the pills and the morphine Ben gave me was sort of fun. Then Ben yelled at me, "Jack, don't burn out the barrel in this my deuce. It's the last one we have." I somehow heard the driver yell, "I hope you get that 4 in soon so you can get back on the my deuce, cause your partner ain't worth shit as a gunner. He's hitting everything except the scumsuckers. Hell, he's even hitting our other vehicles." I felt Ben touch my leg. I jumped like crazy and he yelled, "Jack, let's switch." It took me a bit longer working on the other gunner than I wanted because I decided to change out the exterior ceramic plates in my body armor. I was glad I took the time because the outer of the 2 plates I had in the carrier were pulverized and soon they would have been cutting into me. Uncomfortable as hell. I switched with Jack and ordered, "Make sure you keep a new 4 bag running on the gunner." I grabbed the hearing protectors, got back on my deuce, and shot the hell out of everything. Flashback, Masha, childcare. Where did all the time go? I looked at my watch and realized I would need to practically run to make it to the market for lunch with Louise. I hadn't yet prepared myself for the trip because I was busy teaching Linda some new words. She was such a smart and good girl. It made me wish that Jack and I already had a baby. I quickly changed myself and Linda. It was shocking how dirty a child could become. Put her in the stroller, brought the diaper bag, and departed at a more rapid rate than normal so I would not be late. Things were going fine. I knew I would be on time, and then the police car I normally saw in the area pulled to the edge of the sidewalk and turned on its lights. I had never interfaced with American police, so I did not know what to expect. I only hoped the money I brought with me was enough for the bribe I expected to be forced to pay because I would not pay the bribe with my body. I was a married woman, and we never did such debased things. The police officer smiled at me, which in Russia was not a good sign, and asked, "Good day, ma'am. We stopped you because this is the first time we have noticed you with a baby. And this baby looks too old for you to have just delivered her." I pulled out my green card, handed it to the officer, and explained, "This is a friend of mine's daughter who I watch while she works. I am currently en route to the market where her mother works, so we can eat lunch together." The police officer looked at my green card and asked, "So you are from Russia? However, you speak English very well." I wanted to tell him that he was an idiot, but I held my anger and answered, "Yes, I am from Russia. My husband Jack Reynolds is a sergeant in the Marines and is currently deployed to Iraq." He tapped my green card against the clipboard he carried and stated, "Hey, I think I remember seeing your wedding in Russia. Wasn't it televised?" I had no idea if it was true, so I resorted to a tactic commonly used by a Russian citizen dealing with the police and created a lie. "Yes, it was televised, so perhaps you did see me on television." Then I apologized. "I'm sorry I look so terrible right now, but I was playing with Linda and time got away from me, so I didn't prepare myself as I normally would." The police officer laughed and stated, "Hell, you look better than any of the American women we see. At least you aren't wearing dirty workout clothes. But my partner and I wonder why you always walk to the market." I faked a smile and answered, "We have a car, but I do not have a driver's license. I of course did not tell him I let Louise borrow the car, because I learned in Russia the less information you gave to the police, the better the results will be. He handed back my green card, then handed me a business card, and said, "We always patrol this area, so if you should have any problems, feel free to call us." I glanced at my watch, noticed how late the time was, and requested, "I hate to bother you, officer, but because you detained me, I will be late for lunch." He laughed and interrupted, "Don't worry, we will gladly take you to the market." He opened the rear door of the police car. I hesitantly climbed in with Linda, and the police officer placed the stroller in the trunk. I was nervous as they drove me to the market because in Russia the police were certainly not your friends. Flashback, Jennifer and Glenn, trying to solve a huge problem. Olga, my ballet teacher, had just weighed me, appraised my overall condition, and told me I wasn't overweight. Then she started to write a note to Mother, which I hoped Mother would for once accept. However, I was shocked when Daddy walked into the ballet school, looked at me, and said, "Jennifer, we need to talk." I figured Daddy would have come to get me from the school, but it would be much later. I walked over, could see the obvious pain on his face, and asked, "Daddy, what the heck is wrong? You look really sick. Don't tell me you ate more of Mother's cooking." Daddy gave me a very pained smile and answered, "Jennifer, I hate to tell you this, but when I brought home the housekeeper, Evelyn went on a rampage and left." I blinked a few times, tried to figure out what Daddy meant, but I couldn't exactly decide what he really said, so I asked, "Daddy, what do you mean Mother left?" Daddy looked at the ground, shook his head, and answered, "Jennifer, your mother has run away from home. She has left us." I stuttered, I don't understand. Where did she go, and what will she do?" Daddy looked at me and answered, "Jennifer, I am sorry for causing this. I have no idea where she will go, perhaps back to live with her mother like she has always threatened in the past. But for right now, it's just you, me, and the housekeeper." I thought about what Daddy had told me and had very mixed emotions. On one hand, Mother wouldn't be making us sick any longer, but on the other hand, she deserted us. I was embarrassed as some tears snuck out of my eyes. Daddy saw them and said, "Come on now, my little princess, don't cry. I will take care of you." Daddy always knew what to say, but just because it was my job, I got a little angry, stamped my foot, and complained, "Daddy, I am not a princess." He hugged me and interrupted, "Jennifer, you will always and forever be my little princess. Now let's go home and have dinner." Olga came over. Daddy informed her of the situation, and she assured us that she would help us as much as possible. Daddy loaded my bike into the back of his SUV. I climbed into the front seat beside him and asked, "Daddy, what did the housekeeper make for dinner?" Daddy answered, "Jennifer, she said it was something called lomo saltado. I have no idea what it is, but it smelled really good before I left to come pick you up." We arrived at home. The new housekeeper met us and said with a Hispanic accent, "Hello, my name is Daniela, and I have a wonderful dinner prepared for the two of you." I replied, "Pleased to meet you, Daniela." She corrected, "Sorry, Ms. Jennifer, my name is not Daniela, it is Daniela." We walked into the house, and the smell was heavenly. Daniela took me by the hand, led me to the dining room, helped me to sit down, and said, "I will be back with dinner in a few minutes. Here is a drink called chica morada. It will not only quench your thirst, it will also improve your appetite." She poured a purple-looking drink in our glasses that looked like grape juice. I tasted it and remarked, "Hey, this is really good. It's not too sweet and not too sour. What did you call it?" Daniela answered, "It is chicha morada and is made from purple corn. Now I will bring your feast for tonight." Daddy tasted it, looked at me, and said, "You're right, this is good stuff." Daddy drained his glass. Then Daniela brought in 2 plates heaped with strips of beef, onions, tomatoes, green peppers, and some sort of spicy orange peppers. There was also a huge portion of rice on each plate in the shape of a bell and what looked to be a Jenga tower of French fries. She set them in front of us and said, "Enjoy your dinners." I looked at her and asked, "Aren't you going to eat with us?" She blushed and answered, "Miss Jennifer, I am simply a housekeeper and cannot eat at the table with you two. I will eat in the kitchen." Daddy bellowed a countermand. "Like hell you will, Daniela. You cooked this meal, so you should sit at our table and eat it." I added, "Yes, Daniela, Daddy is right. I will not eat unless you eat at the table with us." Daniela exclaimed, "Dios mío. You two do not understand." I stood up and boldly interrupted. "No, Daniela, you do not understand. Even though this meal smells wonderful, I will not eat it unless you eat with us." Daniela finally relented. "Okay, Ms. Jennifer, I will bring my plate from the kitchen." She went to the kitchen, came back with a much smaller plate than ours. I was going to complain about it, but Daddy caught my eye and made me understand I needed to hold my tongue. Daddy and I both began to eat, and the lomo saltado was a wonderful blend of Chinese and some other ethnic food, which I couldn't place. Flashback, Alexei, at the laboratory. I had planned to get more work done while Chow Mein was busy chasing the flashlight beam. However, I was too entertained watching her and didn't accomplish as much as I had hoped. Eventually, she collapsed on the floor, panting heavily before falling asleep. When I went over to check on her, I touched her fur and quickly pulled my hand back. She was drenched and smelled awful. So, I grabbed my pitcher, filled it with cold water from the sink, and poured it over her. She jumped up like she was on fire, yowled like crazy, and ran under my bed. This gave me another brilliant idea. I lured her from under the bed with one of her favorite treats, grabbed her by the scruff of the neck, marched her into the bathroom, turned on the cold water in my shower, threw her in, and shut the glass door. She began to yowl like she was being killed and banged into the glass door so hard I thought she was going to break it, all of which made me laugh like crazy. I knew I was safe in the bathroom because it was the one place I was not observed by the laboratory staff. However, I was shocked when I heard banging on the bathroom door and the psychologist yelled, "Alexi, are you okay?" I came up with another idea. I stood to one side while I opened the shower door and the bathroom door at the same time. Chow Mein shot out of the shower like the time I set her tail on fire, jumped onto the psychologist, and began to climb his leg with her claws. He began to scream like a little girl, tried to kick her off his leg, and swatted at her with his hand. Of course, this just made her angry, and then she bit him on the hand. His screams attracted the orderlies who came into the room. One reached for Chow Mein, who promptly bit him on the hand. The other orderly was smarter and grabbed her by the scruff of the neck and the tail and removed her from the stunned psychologist. He hauled her out of the room as the psychologist recovered slightly and questioned, "Alexi, what were you doing to Chow Mein?" I replied, "Sorry, sir. I was giving her a bath because she smelled really bad after chasing the flashlight beam for a long time." I didn't know she would react that way because she had never done that in the past. He shook his head and stated, "Alexi, I think we might need to keep Chow Mein away from you for a period of time to make sure she doesn't wound you like she injured me." I faked sadness and replied, "Yes, sir, whatever you feel is necessary." The psychologist was still muttering to himself as he limped from my room. Flashback, Mira and Ira, back in Kazakhstan. We translocated a short distance away, secreted our corporeal selves in some shrubbery, and oculated as 5 men carrying weapons approached the decimated pullet conveyance. One looked inside and stated, "Damn, it looks like the girls killed Valatin and Roman." A grossly obese man replied, "Just wait until we catch them. I will force my fist into there." He never completed his threat because the bomb Ira set with the cigarette lighter activated, and it was glorious. The flaming petrol from the damaged reservoir sprayed everywhere, covering the men in walls of flames. They foolishly did not drop and roll on the ground, but instead took flight up the hill as their screams echoed throughout the canyon. They did not traverse far before they were overcome by the conflagration, and the air reeked of charbroiled epidermis. I looked at Ira and suggested, "Perhaps we could liberate their weapons?" Out tympanic membranes detected a familiar sound, and Ira replied, "My sister, because of the conflagration, the time has expired for obtaining their weapons. The ammunition is currently expending itself in random discharges." Yes, the trap had worked too well and denied us the opportunity to acquire superior weapons. In retrospect, the elimination of 5 off the predators was a worthy trade. A round glanced off the rocks in front of us, and I suggested, "My sister, we should translocate a greater distance from this conflagration as it is sure to attract the attention of other of our adversaries." Mira and I translocated into a nearby tributary using the watery highway, so our trail would be disguised. Without footwear, our trek was frigid, but we were in the mode of survival, so we did not complain. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. As firefights go, this one didn't last very long. Even though the quantity of the enemy soldiers was high, the quality was not. In fact, it was embarrassing that they assumed they could kill me using such unworthy troops. I approached the enemy soldiers and determined they were all dead. I searched the bodies and got lucky when I found a map of the area from the dead officer. One thing I was thankful for: their radio took a direct hit and was disabled. I only hoped it happened before they could relay any information about the firefight to the base. Otherwise, the difficulty of my mission would be compounded. Since I now had a map, I turned off my GPS system because I was sure it was being used to track me. Immediately after disabling GPS, my radio crackled and asked for a sitrep. Like hell they were going to get any information from me. I turned off the radio and even decided to stash it and the GPS unit in some trees. I knew better than to take the primary trail to the compound because I was sure it was booby-trapped, so I found a small animal trail which paralleled it and moved carefully and silently toward my objective. Present, Liz and Bernie, at Leadville Airport. When we exit the C-130 which brought us to the Leadville Airport, I turn my phone back on and notice 15 missed calls. I check the name on the caller ID and blurt, "Shit." Bernie asks, "What's wrong, Liz?" I answer, "The cat must be out of the bag because I have 15 missed phone calls from Jens." I take a deep breath to get ready to call her back when my phone rings and scares the heck out of me. I look at the display, and yes, it's Jens, so I try to be nonchalant as I answer. Well, I sure didn't expect to hear from the newlyweds so soon. How are you doing, Jens? Jens says, Liz, stop trying to distract me. You know why I've called. What in the frackin' heck happened to the cabin? I waffle by answering her question with a question. Jens, how in the hell did you find out? I thought you two were going to be locked up in your room for the next 2 weeks. Jens replies, we were following the plan, but decided to have a nice dinner in the restaurant. An older couple came up to us, congratulated us on the wedding, and then dropped the frackin' bombshell about the cabin. Liz, stop stalling and tell me what happened. I take a deep breath and answer. Jens, we just arrived at the Leadville airport. The cabin is still an active crime scene, and Samantha should be arriving there any moment. From what Sheriff Jim told us, the cabin is a total loss, and it looks like Zarika and Yasmin set the fire in retaliation for me forgetting to invite them to the wedding. Jens sputters, those two little miscreants. They have been nothing but a pain in my rear ever since they arrived. And don't blame yourself for not inviting them. I didn't want them at my wedding because I knew they would do something terrible. Please tell me the tunnels survived? I'm happy I can give her some good news. Yes, Jens, Gretchen checked the tunnels and said they're fine. Now how is your honeymoon? Is it all you expected? I can imagine a very dreamy look on Jens' face as she answers. Liz, it's so wonderful, I don't have any words to explain how I feel. My phone beeps to indicate I have another incoming call, so I say, Jens, the network is calling, so I need to take this call. You two continue to have a great time, and we will take care of the situation with the cabin. I answer the phone, and the station manager says, Liz, it's about time you answered your phone. I reply, yeah, we were on the flight back to Leadville, so I had my phone turned off. I turned it back on as we left the plane. What's going on? He answers, well, we wanted your approval before we ran the story Samantha did about Megan and Evelyn Donaldson being killed at the wedding. But we couldn't wait any longer, so we ran the story. I swore, son of a bitch. Samantha wasn't supposed to do that story because Jens doesn't know about Evelyn yet. How long ago did you run it? The manager apologizes and says, Liz, I'm sorry about this. Samantha assured us you approved of the story. We aired it about 10 minutes ago. I do some quick thinking and reply, don't worry about it. I think I can still take care of things. I end the conversation, call Jens back, and she answers, geez, can't I get any peace on my honeymoon? I lie through my teeth, sorry about this, Jens, but I just thought of a question for Ben. Could you put him on the phone? Jens giggles and says, sure, but he's taking a nap, 'cause my old man is all tuckered from doing, well, something. It takes a couple of minutes, but Ben finally comes on the phone. I say, Ben, you need to mask your emotions and just listen. Samantha did an unapproved report on Megan and Evelyn's death at the wedding, and the station just broadcast it 10 minutes ago. You have to figure out some way to keep Jens from watching the television until after your honeymoon is over. Ben sleepily answers, Liz, I don't think that will be a problem. She didn't want to leave the room for dinner until I forced her to. After deciding we just might survive this fiasco, I ask Ben, good, let me talk to Jens again. Jens comes back on and I tease, Jens, what are you doing to him? He sounds half dead. Jens raspberries into the phone and answers, nothing that you, Bernie, and everyone else haven't been doing for years, and hey, I have to make up for lost time. And now that Ben's awake again, the phone goes dead. I guess Jens hung up. I begin to laugh. Bernie gives me a questioning look, so I reply, Jens has already worn Ben out. Bernie laughs, but comments, so Sam did a report on Megan and Evelyn? I angrily answer, the little bitch sure did. Even though I told her not to, she convinced the station to broadcast it. Bernie asks, so what are you going to do about it? I answer, she went too far this time, so I'm going to fire her. Present, Samantha, in Leadville. I timed it perfectly, and my report on Megan and Evelyn was broadcast before the station could contact Liz. They did blank out some of the more graphic video of Megan's corpse. Bill moved the bodies from inside the coolers into a truck and left. I went to the sleeping areas, checked on Stacy, and verified she was sleeping soundly. I look at the cameraman and say, well, let's take one of the vans Bill offered us and get to the cabin. John says, the gear's already loaded, so we're ready to roll. We climb into the van and head toward the cabin. My phone rings. I look at the caller ID and see it's Liz, so I warn the guys, I think the shit is going to hit the fan, it's Liz. I answer the phone and Liz yells, Samantha, what the hell did you do? I smugly answer, Liz, I did the job you hired me for. Liz explodes, I ordered you to not do that story until Jens and Ben were back from their honeymoon, and you chose to disobey me. Samantha, you're fired, and I will make sure you never work in the business again. I laugh and answer, Liz, you can't fire me because I quit, and I already have a better job offer. It gives me huge pleasure to hang up the phone on her. I tell my cameraman, well, it looks like we're working for Stacy. Do you guys have any problems with that? They both answer, not really. We reach the cabin, pull in, and begin to set up the equipment when the sheriff comes over, and I can't believe what he says. Present, Jack, Masha, and the children, on the C-130. I look down at my daughter and wonder because she's already beautiful, and by the time she's a teenager we're going to have trouble. In some ways I wish she was another boy, since with a boy you only have to worry about his hardware. However, with a girl you have to worry about every boy in the world's hardware. That's okay, because if I decide to let her date, they're going to have to meet me first, and I will put the fear of me and God in them. I can see it now. I will be in my BDUs doing dry fire practice with my rifle when they come over. If that doesn't scare them enough, I will show them a few of my targets. I look down at her. She looks up at me and makes baby noises. I hold out my hand. She takes my finger and of course puts it right into her mouth. Maybe I should reconsider about her being a boy. I think of her Auntie Jennifer and how she waded through hell and high water for Ben, and decide that Jennifer will be a great ally in making sure Veronica waits until she's married. Plus, I know Masha will teach her martial arts. Hell, she's already started with Ivan. Yeah, my time in the Marines was special and no one can ever take it from me, but it doesn't hold a candle to my life now. Ivan runs by with Sharik giving chase. He sees me holding Veronica, stops and asks, "Papa, is okay if I hold baby sister?" I answer, "Of course you can, but you have to sit in a seat first." Ivan sits down across the aisle from me, fastens his seatbelt without being told. I stand up and, oh hell no. Present, Tom and Inga, heading back to Leadville. The chopper lands at the Glacier Park International Airport, and Inga takes off like her, but is on fire. Shit, she's still pissed at me. I had hoped she would calm down some, because we still have work to do. Since she's not here, I take the clipboard with all the guest names on it, and double-check that they are all crossed off. I still walk around to double-check that all the guests for the wedding have left, since I sure as hell don't want to leave anyone here. Everyone is gone other than myself and Inga, so I look for her, but can't find her. I go to the information booth in the terminal and have them page her, and wait and wait and wait, still no Inga. Finally the C-130 pilot comes and says, "Tom, we really need to get moving. There's a new mission for you and your team." I answer, "Hell's bells, that's the problem. I'm missing one of my team. Inga isn't here." The pilot laughs and answers, "Hell, Tom, she's been on the C-130 flirting like crazy with the crew and waiting for you." I sure as hell didn't like the sound of that. I complained, "Damn women, you can't shoot them and you can't trade them for a good dog." The pilot laughs and says, "Who the hell would want to trade Inga for a dog? Hell, I'd tap that any day of the week." I glare at the pilot and demand, "And what the hell would your wife say about that?" He laughs and admits, "For Inga, it would almost be worth it." I counter, "Just remember, marriage is grand, but divorce is 100 grand. I head out to the waiting C-130 with him, bored and can't believe what I see. Present, Stacy and Samantha, in Leadville. I'm sleeping so well and having a great dream. Ben dumped Jennifer at the altar, and he and I rode away together on bow and patches to start our life together. Then my phone rings and ruins the dream. I wake up in a sleepy fog and angrily answer, "This had better be an emergency." Samantha answers, "Stacy, sorry to wake you, but this is an emergency." I don't remember too many times that I've heard Samantha flustered like this, so I sit up in bed, flip on the light, and say, "Samantha, calm down and let me know what's going on." Samantha says, "Stacy, this is my one phone call. We're currently being held at the jail and the sheriff's office." I ask, "What the hell is going on?" Samantha replies, "Sheriff Jim saw my report on the bodies, told me he wanted to know where I filmed the report and where the bodies were. I invoked reporter-informant privilege, so he hauled us to the jail and locked us up." I think for a moment and ask, "Did you call Liz about this?" Samantha replies, "Stacy, that's the other thing going on. Liz was going to fire me for doing the report, so I beat her to the punch and quit. Shit, when it rains it pours." Then I hear someone beating on the door downstairs and I yell, "Bill, please answer the door." I don't get an answer from Bill, so I jump out of bed. Thank God I left my clothes on. Run downstairs, look at the front door security camera, and I can't believe who it is. Present, Safia, Mira, and Ira, on the hunt. Mira is upset because we've convinced her that Ben probably had sex with the 304 and Yasmin. She begins to sob, looks up at Ira, and informs us, "Then I will terminate all of them." I agree. Now you're talking. Let's find both of the teenage bitches and make them pay. Mira looks at me and then says something I can't believe. I look at Safia and elucidate. Safia, not just Sarika and Yasmin. I am fatigued by the insults and lack of respect, so I will also eliminate Jennifer Donaldson. I cannot believe Mira would say such a thing, and I am totally speechless. Thank God Ira isn't. My honest assessment of Myra's Ben's possible dalliances with the terrible teenagers, and the reminder of his betrothal to Jennifer Donaldson have totally unseated any logic which remained in Myra's hormone-compromised brain, and she has committed herself to a very grievous course. I caution, Myra, your thinking has many fallacies, but the primary consequence if you eliminate Jennifer Donaldson is that your Ben will never love you. Myra rubs the dreaded fetus through her body armor and counters. Ira, it is you that has fallacies controlling your thoughts. Once I deliver my Ben's progeny, he will fall insanely in love with me. My sister's reasoning is max eccentric. I continue with my cautioning. Myra, if that is a factoid, then please elucidate on the need to terminate Jennifer Donaldson. Myra states, she must be terminated because she has lain in a biblical sense with my future husband and therefore contaminated his training tool. I think I might have found a chink in my sister's mental chainmail, so I carefully ask, Myra, your Ben has most likely had other women with whom he has performed the act of coitus. What action should be undertaken toward them? Myra's glare causes me consternation as she answers, Ira, your assumptions are probably true. Therefore, I will force my Ben to divulge the names of those harlots. Then I will eliminate them all and let God decide if any should abide in heaven. I comprehend that further conversation with my unbalanced sister on this subject would be striking an expired equus caballus. As an alternate, I suggest, Myra, our initial action should be directed toward finding the terrible teenagers. She smiles and agrees. Yes, Ira, you are correct. However, their trail has abruptly departed this tracking domain. I look and realize she is correct. Then I see evidence of the pausing of a vehicle upon the highway and state, Myra, they acquired conveyance transportation. Myra stands in the center of the road and states, then we will acquire the same. Present, Yasmin and Zarika, on the run. The driver takes us to Leadville. I make a few phone calls to some friends, and we begin my plan of revenge. Flashback, Jack and Ben, the trip to hell. Ramadi. The driver called back to me. You two are Marines, correct? I replied, damn straight. I'm Sergeant Jack Reynolds. Your gunner is Ben, and Captain M is our wounded. The driver laughed and said, shit. That explains a hell of a lot, and also makes my job easier. I had to ask, what the hell does that mean? He continued with a chuckle, you guys are legendary. Everyone heard you two were coming. Even the scumsuckers. Hell, they already put a price on your heads. And it makes my job easier because I can drop you guys off at Shark Base, which is right outside Camp Ramadi. If you were Army, I would have to figure a way to get you to the east, west, or south part of the city. It also explains why your gunner is so damn good. I commented, so the Marines are coming in from the north of Ramadi. He added, the Marines and the SEALs. They have some damn good snipers who can't wait to meet the two of you. I felt good that we were famous, but didn't like the fact we were infamous. Hell, every scumsucker in the city would be gunning for us. Then he gave me a bit of information that worried me more than just a little. We've been battling a hell of a good sniper named Mustafa, who's been taking a huge toll on our men. They say he's from Syria and used to be on their Olympic rifle team. As suddenly as the firing started earlier, it stopped, and the driver remarked, well, thanks to you two we made it. This is Shark Base, and there are medevac choppers waiting for your captain and my gunner. Ben ducked inside the Humvee and said, damn, that was some fierce fighting. The driver heaped on the praise, and thanks to your excellent shooting we made it. Hell, I'll be a driver for you any day of the week. I replied, you did a great job driving. Then I turned to Jack and asked, how are the other gunner and Captain M doing? Jack answered, the gunner is still alive, but I think he's in shock. Captain M swore, unfortunately, I'm still goddamn alive and I still can't feel my legs. I was pretty damn sure the captain's spinal cord had been severed and he would never walk again, but I lied. Shit, sir. It beats the hell out of pushing up daisies. The captain countered, like hell it does. If I turn up as a paraplegic, it's your and Sergeant Reynolds' fault and you'll pay. I didn't want to get into it with the captain, so I was glad when the driver stopped the Humvee. It was like we were met by a swarm of locusts. Marines came up to the Humvee, opened the doors, and I yelled a caution. Captain M has a broken back. We need a corpsman to move him. The swarm parted. Colonel Maggie walked up. Jack and I jumped out of the back of the Humvee, and we gave her our best salutes. She returned the salute and said, you three look like 100 miles of bad roads. Jack answered, well, sir, that was about how many miles of scumsuckers we fought through to get here. The corpsman came up to take care of Captain M. Colonel Maggie motioned me to the side and asked, is it as bad as I heard? I looked down, shook my head, and said, probably worse. I think his back was pulverized. Even worse than that, he blames me and Jack for it. Colonel Maggie tried to offer comfort. Of course he would blame the two of you. He's sure not going to take responsibility for it himself. It's a shame since he was a good officer and showed some great prospects. Now they will stabilize him here, then ship him out to Germany. Jack limped up. Colonel Maggie watched him and demanded, what the hell is wrong with you? Jack gave her a fake smile, which she didn't notice, and lied. Nothing that a little time won't heal. The MRI showed that I strained the hell out of my back. She looked at the two of us and said, unfortunately, time is the one thing we don't have. We need you two on missions as soon as you get your rooms. Clean up and grab some chow. Jack surprised me when he said, yeah, I heard we're having our butts handed to us by a Syrian sniper by the name of Mustafa. Colonel Maggie answered, yeah, he's damn good and is taking down too many of our men. But we have others hunting for him. We have a special mission for the two of you. She turned and ordered, Corporal, take the SGTS to their rooms, make sure they get cleaned up, fed, and then bring them to command and communication. The corporal lead the way. I looked at Jack and said, damn, we aren't even getting a chance to wind down. And what the hell are you doing lying about your back? Jack glared at me and answered, come on, Ben. You know if I told her the truth about my back, I'd be benched and you'd be working with a new spotter. And if this Mustafa a-hole is as good as I heard, now is sure as hell not the time to be breaking in a new spotter. I said, okay, Jack, but we need to figure out just how many of the meds you can take and still function. Flashback, Masha, childcare. I was shocked when the police officers drove me to the market, helped Linda and me out of the car, retrieved her stroller from the trunk, and even helped me to get her into the stroller. The one officer smiled again and said, Ms., if you need anything at all, do not hesitate to call us. I replied, thank you very much. How much do I owe you? He laughed and said, nothing. It was great meeting you. Have a nice day. They drove away, and I was shocked. I walked into the market. Louise saw me and asked, Masha, is everything okay? You arrived in a police car. We went back to the employee break room and sat at the lunch table. Louise brought over some food from the microwave, and we began to eat. Then I looked at her, explained everything which transpired on our way to visit her, and asked, Louise, is this the normal way the police act in your country? She smiled and answered, sometimes yes, and other times no. It really depends on the officers that you meet. She leaned close and continued, some of them are real a-holes. I don't know how many times they've stopped me about my car and tried to give me a ticket. Many times I can smile at them and get out of it. Other times, well, I have to do things for them I don't really enjoy doing. I was shocked and decided I was very lucky to have met two of the better type of officers. But I still didn't trust them, and if any of them wanted one of the other things, I would use my skills to alter their attitude. I questioned, couldn't you go to their superiors when they wanted those things? Louise said, no way. If I did that, then every officer in the city would be out to get me. I realized that in some ways, and not necessarily good ways, America and Russia were similar. Louise changed the subject. Masha, is your husband a Marine? I replied, yes, he is, but he is currently deployed. She asked, have you ever been to the BX? I gave her a questioning look and asked, what is a BX? Louise answered, BX stands for Base Exchange. It's a store where only military personnel and their family can shop. They have some great deals on food and other items. I replied, Jack wasn't here long enough to show me the BX. Louise offered, sometime, if you would like, we could go there together. I questioned, is it legal for you to go to the BX? Louise answered, only if I accompany you. Perhaps we could go on my next day off? That seemed like an excellent idea, so I replied, I think that would be great. Louise looked at the clock and said, well, I need to get back to work. Thanks for bringing Linda by. She gave Linda a big kiss, hugged me, and walked us out of the store. Thankfully, the police car wasn't in the parking lot when I exited. I hurried home while I kept looking over my shoulder. Flashback, Jennifer and Glenn, trying to solve a huge problem. We finished our wonderful meal, and I said, thank you, Daniela, that was so tasty, sort of like Chinese and some other flavor I couldn't describe. Daniela replied, thank you, Ms. Jennifer. Lomo saltado is a favorite dish from my home country of Peru. Many Chinese immigrated to Peru years ago, so we call it a fusion dish of the chifa, which is how we say Chinese food in Peru and our own indigenous cooking. I began to take daddies and my plates to the kitchen, and Daniela complained, Ms. Jennifer, that is my job. I argued, Daniela, like heck it is. You may have grown up in Peru, but in America the daughters are taught to help. Daniela countered, yes, but in a house where there is a housekeeper it is her job. I continued to resist. Then tell me, Daniela, how am I supposed to learn to be a good wife? Daddy chuckled and interceded. Daniela, please allow Jennifer to assist with the work around the house. You are our housekeeper, but you are not a slave. Daniela conceded, as you wish, sir. If Ms. Jennifer would like, I could also teach her how to make some traditional Peruvian dishes. I answered, that would be great. So, what are we having tomorrow night? Daniela smiled and replied, I think I will give you both a real treat, and we'll make ceviche mixto. I asked, what the heck is ceviche mixto? Daniela answered, I will tell you tomorrow, after you try it. Now I was curious as heck at why she wouldn't describe tomorrow's dinner. So, I excused myself from the table, ran up to my room, and searched for it on the internet. After I read about the ceviche mixto, I wasn't sure I wanted to eat it. I moved to my bed, sat down, and wondered why in the frickin' heck mother left us. I mean, I know I'm not the best or most compliant daughter in the world, but I sure didn't think life here was that bad for her. Daddy knocked on my door and asked, "Jennifer, may I come in?" I answered, "Sure, Daddy." He walked into my room, took one look at me, and asked. Flashback. Alexei, at the laboratory. I fought the impulse to dance around the room in victory. I had won a huge battle. Chow Mein was gone. Well, gone at least for now, and I would no longer be bothered by her. However, I knew I was being observed, so I did not perform my victory dance. Instead, I went back to the vexing problem of trisecting an angle. I was deep in thought when there was a knock on my door which interrupted me. I angrily groused, "Please enter my room." The psychologist walked in and inquired, "Alexei, are you angry about losing Chow Mein?" I was concerned that if I said yes he would bring Chow Mein back, so I told him a version of the truth. "Sorry, sir. I was concentrating on this geometry problem, and you interrupted my thought process. Please forgive me for being so abrupt. What brings you back into my room?" He gave me a sad look and said, "Alexei, I have some very bad news for you." I was concerned that they discovered my games with Chow Mein, so I said, "Sir, please do not leave it in suspense. Give me the bad news." He answered, "Alexei, I hate to say this, but Chow Mein has become totally unhinged. We had the veterinarian take her away, and we are not sure when she will be returned." I could tell from the expression on the psychologist's face there was more to the story, so I inquired, "Sir, please tell me what happened." He began the tale. "We thought that Chow Mein might enjoy some time with your mother, so we took her into your mother's room. Your mother was not ready to see Chow Mein in her current denuded state, so she shrieked at Chow Mein, which greatly annoyed the already volatile Chow Mein. Your mother tried to run from Chow Mein. However, she attacked your mother and inflicted many serious bites on her before we could recapture Chow Mein. In the process of recapturing Chow Mein, she seriously bit 2 orderlies. Now the veterinarian is concerned that Chow Mein might have rabies." This was the best news I had ever had. Mother got her just desserts from that devil cat of hers. I had my hands in my lap, and again I wanted to dance but squeezed my testicles so hard it made me cry a little and lied. "Sir, I am sorry that Chow Mein has bitten you and so many others, especially my mother. I do not understand what has happened to her. Do you feel it is something I have precipitated?" I hoped they had not discovered my ruse and was happy when he said, "No, Alexei. Other than your ill-advised bathing of Chow Mein, we have observed nothing in your actions toward her that caused her mental breakdown. I do want to assure you that we will do everything in our power to correct Chow Main's mental problems and return her to you." Father knocked on the door frame, entered my room, and said, "Alexei, I just heard of the problems with Chow Mein and thought that perhaps a movie might cheer you up." I made sure to display no joy as I replied, "I guess that might help. Could we also get some food before we attend the movies?" Father hugged me and answered, "Of course. Isn't that what we normally do?" This night was better than ever. Flashback. Mira and Ira, back in Kazakhstan. We traversed the tributary at the same velocity as the water so as to mask the mire our locomotion created. However, many times we exited the tributary making sure our boot prints could be oculated by any who pursued us. Then I recalled another possible ruse and commanded Ira, "Ira, we must sit in the tributary." Ira complained, "Mira, I do not desire that my nether regions become any more frigid." I informed her of my diversionary tactic. "Ira, we will sit in the tributary, remove our boots, and attach them to our pedal units in a reverse direction. This will further confound our pursuers and allow us to reduce our time navigating the tributary." Ira smiled and stated, "Mira, for such a plan I will subject my nether regions to the frigid tributary." We sat in the tributary. Ira was correct regarding its frigid nature, removed our boots, reversed their directions on our feet, then we traversed to the shore as I reminded her. "Make sure your pedal digits impact the ground first, elsewise the imprint will be incorrect and subject to closer inspection." Ira smiled as we left the tributary and stated, "Now the prey, of necessity, must become the predators." Flashback. Todd, on the mission. All jungle environments have their own unique signature of sounds, encompassed by the insect and animal life. One of the largest challenges in moving through the jungle is to not upset the fauna that create the signature sound, because once it changed you could be sure that something large changed it. Thanks to Lou's excellent training, I was passing through this jungle without the telltale disruption of the fauna. The game trail I was on deviated slightly from the direction in which I needed to travel, so I had a decision to make. Stay on this game trail, which could take me many clicks away from my target, or move back to the main trail and deal with any possible booby traps. I had decided on the latter course and prepared to move off the trail when the jungle suddenly became quiet as a crypt. Since the signature sound had already changed, I quickly and quietly moved into some shrubbery and concealed myself. I listened intently for the presence that modified the signature sound, but heard nothing. I strained all my senses to no avail, but felt something. Somewhere was watching me. However, in the darkness, I could not perceive it. But in this case where my eyes failed me, my sense of smell did not. Present, Liz and Bernie, at Leadville Airport. Bernie has been so great, and I'm so excited to start looking for a house. But there are some loose ends I need to deal with first, so I inquire. Honey, would you mind if we go to the cabin before we start looking for a house? Bernie asks, what do we need to do at the cabin? I reply, I hate to say it, but the twins leaving the wedding and then the cabin without letting me know has really irked me. I would like to clean up our old life by firing there, but it's before we start our new life. Bernie agrees. Yeah, that's great. I didn't really want them hanging around the house with us. Call me jealous, but I want you all to myself. I smile at Bernie and say, that sounds great to me. I do have one question though. Do you still want to have our wedding at the cabin? I can almost see the gears turning in his head as he pauses to think. Then he grins at me and says, Liz, we don't have any idea when the cabin will be fixed, and I don't want to wait that long to marry you and start a family. So why don't we see about having it in one of the churches in Leadville? His answer surprises me because I hadn't really thought much about starting a family. In fact, until Yin's fixed, you all do remember that, don't you? My problems, I didn't worry about getting pregnant. Wait a minute, that made me think of something. I scowl at Bernie and swear, shit Bernie. Do you remember the last time I had my period? The gears begin to turn again in his head. He returns my scowl and says, damn Liz, I don't remember, you don't think you're? I interrupt, yeah Bernie, I might be. No wonder I've been so hungry. We need to stop by a narcotic store and pick up a pregnancy test. Bernie whistles, damn, we might need to move up the wedding. I agree. Yeah, unless you want a pregnant bride with a big stomach. Bernie hugs me and comforts me when he says, Liz, it won't matter to me. I hug him back. We flag down a cab to take us first to a narcotic store and then the cabin. And now we continue our discussion. Present, Samantha, in Leadville. I still can't believe that this backwoods sheriff arrested us and locked us in his jail. I was sorry to wake up Stacy, but I was glad I was able to contact her because I knew she would fix things. The only good thing about the whole fiasco was that this jail was really nice and clean. I sat on the bed and waited for Stacy to show up. Present, Jack, Masha, and the children, on the C-130. Ivan wants to hold his baby sister Veronica, so he sits in the seat across the aisle from me. I stand to hand Veronica to him, and oh hell no. My back goes out. I begin to fall to the floor, stretch out the arm that's not around Veronica to break my fall, and to keep me from crushing my daughter. My arm contacts the deck of the C-130, twists the hell out of my back, and pain shoots through my body. It's worth it because it forces me to land on the side where I'm holding my girl, but I keep her from hitting the floor. However, it scares her, so she begins to cry. Ivan also gets frightened, begins to cry, and the noise from both wakes up Masha, and she says, I hear Veronica and Ivan begin to cry. They wake me up from such a wonderful nap, so I ask without even opening my eyes, Jack, what is wrong? Ivan screams, which makes me snap my eyes open. Papa almost fall on my baby sister Veronica. I look and see Jack lying on the floor of the airplane holding Veronica, who is now screaming. I move beside Jack, touch him and ask, honey, what is wrong? Jack grimaces and replies, Masha, don't worry. Veronica is fine. She's just scared. Nothing to worry about since I just slipped and fell. I give him my look and warn, Jack Reynolds, you know better than to lie to me. Now tell me the truth. Jack tries to hide things with a very fake chuckle and says, yeah, I guess I never could fool you. My back went out when I stood up to hand Veronica to Ivan. Ivan interjects, but Papa big hero. He hold out arm, so he not hurt baby sister. I carefully take Veronica from Jack, look at Ivan and ask, my son, can you hold Veronica even though she is crying? Ivan vigorously nods his head and assures me, yes, Mama. I take good care of baby sister. I step over Jack, put Veronica in Ivan's lap, then he holds her close and begins to sing a Russian song to her. Veronica begins to settle down, and I turn all my attention to Jack. Present, Tom and Inga, heading back to Leadville. I had no idea Inga was already on the C-130 until the pilot told me. We hauled out to the plane, climbed inside using the back ramp, and I couldn't believe what I saw. Inga was there, sitting on one of the crew's lap, playing tonsil hockey with the scumsucker. I walked up, cleared my throat, and growled, thanks a hell of a lot for letting me know you were here. Inga paused her oral exploration of the crewman's mouth, looked at me, grinned, and answered, you're very welcome. She began her gross exploration again, and I order, Inga, we need to talk. There's a new mission for us. She paused her search, grinned at me, and shocked me when she announced, "Tom, I am thinking of transferring to this crew." I sputtered, "But Inga, I need you." Inga corrected me. "No, Tom, you need someone who you can boss around and do your work for you. That used to be me, but I'm tired of it." I asked, "So what would it take for you to come back to my team?" She grinned and answered, "Tom, you know what I want. Now you need to decide if you want the same thing. I will give you until we land in Leadville to make your decision." Son of a bitch, she was being unreasonable. I had a hell of a decision to make, and I bet Byron was laughing his butt off, wherever he was. Present, Stacy, in Leadville at her building. Things are going to hell in a handbasket. First, the sheriff arrested Samantha over the report she did on the bodies, and now he, Glenn, and Hammer are here beating on the door of my building. To top it all off, Bill is missing. I call over the intercom. "This is Stacy. What do you want, Sheriff?" He holds up a piece of paper and says, "I have a search warrant for this building. Now stop delaying and open the door for us." I answer, "Us? You can't mean you're allowing Glenn Donaldson and Hammer to help you conduct the search?" I figure I have him over a barrel since he wants to use civilians, but he shoots down my theory when he replies, "Why not? They are both official deputies of my department. Now either open this door, or we will be forced to break it down." I move over to the door, open it, and Sheriff Jim, Glenn, and Hammer rush into the building. Sheriff Jim hands the search warrant to me, and Glenn demands, "Present, Glenn, Hammer, and Stacy, in Leadville at Stacy's building." Even though from the report that Samantha did, we could not tell where Stacy took the bodies, we still got a search warrant for her building and were duly appointed deputy sheriffs. She finally opened the damn door. We rushed in, and I asked, "Ret Missy war you are te bodies on my good wife and Megan?" Stacy blinked a few times, looked to be in confusion, and answered, "Glenn, I have no idea what you're talking about." Hammer interrupted, "Glenn just gives puckle minutes a loin why, and she will gab." Stacy swore, "You sons of a bitches. That sounds like a threat to me, so I'm calling my lawyers." Sheriff Jim stopped her. "Stacy, there's no need to do that. Hammer was just teasing. Go ahead and explain it was all just a joke, Hammer." Hammer really screwed up when he replied, "Sorry, Missy. It is just that I have a terrible headache. Ye wouldn't hae a wee nip I scotch a ruined whore, would ye?" Stacy swore again. "I've had my fill of these jokers. They don't realize that I turned on the surveillance system cameras before they came into my building. They had been off while the bodies were here because we didn't want any evidence available. I'm not sure where Bill is right now, but I can only assume he's hiding the bodies." "Sheriff Jim, what sort of deputies do you have working for you? First I'm threatened, and now one of them who's obviously nursing a hangover asks me for a drink. You should know this whole incident has been recorded, and now I am calling my lawyer. Not only do we need to deal with this fiasco, we also need to deal with you arresting and detaining my news crew." Sheriff Jim sputtered, "What do you mean your news crew? I thought they worked for the Truth Network." I grinned at him and answered, "Not anymore. They now work for me. By the way, I respect your warrant, and you can search anywhere you want for the bodies because they have never been here. But remember, all your actions are being recorded, so any damage to this building or any property within it will be dealt with by my lawyers." Glenn said, "Ahil, if she's gone let us search teach buildin' in the arena whore. Sae where did ye tack them, Missy?" I once again lied. "Glenn, as I said before, they have never been here and are not here now." I hoped Hammer would threaten me again, but Glenn glared at him, and he held his tongue. I pulled out my mobile phone, speed-dialed my lawyers, informed them of the situation, and they asked to speak with Sheriff Jim. I handed the phone to him, grinned, and lowered the proverbial boom. "My lawyers would like to have a word with you." I could tell from the tone of the conversation it wasn't going well for Sheriff Jim. He handed the phone back to me and suggested, "How about we release your news crew from our jail, and you give us your video for the last 2 days?" I grin at Sheriff Jim and answer, "Sure, you can have a copy of the video that's been taken while you were here. We had problems with the cameras for the last week, so I just turned them on before you walked in." Sheriff Jim complains, "Well, that is sure convenient." I continue my grin, shrug my shoulders, and say, "Well, those things happen. Now do you wish to inspect the whole building?" He shakes his head and replies, "I guess there's no reason to do that. But you do know we will find those bodies." I answer with yet one more lie, "Well, Godspeed to you on that." As I escort them to the door, I remind him, "Don't forget to release my news crew as soon as you get back to your jail." He gives me a pathetic wave because he knows he has been beaten. I just hope Bill hid those bodies in the deepest, darkest hole he could find. Otherwise my butt is grass. Present, Samantha and Stacy, in the Leadville jail. Sheriff Jim walks into the jail with a very upset look on his face and threatens, "Your news crew is free to leave. However, we will find where you took the videos of the bodies, and when we do, you won't be in the jail. You will be buried under it." I reply, "Well, thank you for releasing us. Since you made us leave our van and equipment at the cabin, how about giving us a ride back there?" He glares at me and answers, "You should count yourself lucky you're getting out of here, so don't push your good fortune." I'm not too worried since I know I can call Stacy. When speak of the devil, she walks into the sheriff's office. She smiles at me and says, "I decided you might need a ride back to the cabin." I take her hand. We walk out of the jail with the cameraman in tow, and I ask, "What did you do to Sheriff Jim?" Stacy laughs and answers, "I went to the jail to make sure that Sheriff Jim doesn't drag his feet on letting Samantha out of jail. And even though we had our run-ins in the past, he keeps his word." Samantha and I walk out hand in hand, and I answer, "It was a simple case of small-town sheriff meets high-powered big-city lawyer." I explain to Samantha what transpired at the building, and she suggests a great plan. Present, Ira, Mira, and Safia, on the hunt. My sister Mira has become totally hormonally unstable. She stands in the middle of the road, endangering her life and the life of her Ben's dreaded fetus while attempting to commandeer a vehicle. I begin to lodge a complaint when a conveyance approaches. Mira raises her rifle and points it at the aforementioned conveyance, which promptly stops. Mira keeps her rifle trained on the conveyance, approaches the operator's side window and states, "Sir, it is a grave emergency. We need an immediate ride into Leadville." The driver appears relieved as he replies, "I'd be happy to give you a ride, but would you please point your rifle in a different direction?" Mira complies and the driver orders, "Climb in the back of my truck and I will haul into town." We all climb into the aft partition of the conveyance, and the driver rapidly translocates us to Leadville. Once we arrive, I query, "Mira, what are your plans now for locating the terrible teenagers?" I am on the most critical mission of my life, and I feel as if I am totally alone. I order as a response to Ira's question, "Safia, please call Alexi's phone and obtain the mobile phone number for Zarika." Safia gives me an obscene look and balks. "Why in the hell should I call him and get that bitch's phone number?" I threaten, "Because I will beatificate your posterior if you do not." Safia continues her expression designed to terminate my corporeal self as she complies. I cannot believe that Mira wants me to call Alexi to get the bitch's phone number. I reluctantly comply because Mira is angrier than I have ever seen her. I place the call to Alexi, and I'm shocked when he doesn't answer. I seriously worry that Mira will blame me and kick my butt. I hold out my mobile phone and announce, "Mira, please don't kick my butt," but Alexi isn't answering his phone. I heave a sigh of relief when Mira says, "Then we need to inquire of the patrons in Leadville if they have perceived the terrible teenagers." We walk into the first business and, present, Yasmin and Zarika, on the run. We find a suitable location for my plan, and I order Zarika, "You need to call Alexi and tell him you are pregnant with his baby." Zarika resists. "Yasmin, that is the last thing I want to do." I explain to her, "Zarika, it is critical for the success of my plan that you do this, no matter how much it hurts. We need him to come here to us." She reluctantly places the call, but I can tell from the way she's acting that something is wrong. She hangs up the phone and says, "Alexi promised he would be here as soon as possible, but we have a big problem. Safia and Alexi's sisters are hunting for us. He said they planned to kill us." I smile at Zarika and try to comfort her. "Don't you see this is even better than ever? This could end up even better than I hoped for." I take out my mobile phone and place a call. Flashback, Ben and Jack, the trip to hell. Ramadi. The corporal took us to our room, and I was shocked that we had a real room, not a cot in the barracks. I made a mental note to thank Colonel Maggie when I got the chance. We walked into the room, and I saw the cases of ammo I brought for my new rifle. As we stowed our footlockers, I asked, "Corporal, where are the showers?" He replied, "Sirs, if you get your towels and change of clothes, I will show you where the showers are." Jack must have been feeling better because he complained, "Don't call us sirs. We work for a living." The corporal stuttered, "Sorry, sir. SGTS. I blew it off with an insult, "Don't worry about it. My spotter Jack is a little cranky when he doesn't get his nap." Jack swore, "Ben, you sorry young pup. Keep it up and I will kick your butt." The corporal laughed and I countered, "See what I mean?" Thank God Jack only grumbled under his breath this time. We popped our footlockers, I grabbed a few critical items and asked, "Corporal, will you help me with this?" We went to the door, and the corporal helped me install a huge hasp set on the door and wall. On my way back to the footlocker, Jack complained, "It's about time, and I sure hope you have more than one key for that padlock." I could tell from Jack's attitude that he was hurting, so I looked at the corporal and asked, "How about coming back in a few minutes to take us to the showers?" The corporal left the room. I glared at Jack, and he said, Ben got rid of the corporal, and as soon as he left I looked at Ben as he glared at me, and I said, "Sorry, Ben, but my back really hurts right now." His glare turned to a smile, and he replied, "Well, with the disc damage it's not going to get much better, so what are we going to do about it?" I swore, "The hell if I know." Ben suggested, "Okay, how about we get you a pain pill, a hot shower, and then I will teach you to do some mild stretches for your back." I glared at Ben and complained, Don't tell me you're going to have me doing the same shit that I see you doing all the time. Hell, you look like a dog every time you get up from sitting. I felt a little bad when Ben didn't even retaliate but smiled and answered, "That's right, Jack. I've been fighting you for years to begin to do some stretching, and by God you're going to do it now." I defensively argued, "And what if I refuse to listen to you?" Ben gave me one of his patented shit-eating grins and answered, "Then I tell Colonel Maggie what happened in Baghdad with Captain M and the MRI technician and tell her how bad your pain has been. She will send your butt back to Baghdad for another MRI. They will discover the truth this time, and you will get a medical discharge." Hell, Ben had me over a barrel. Then I came up with an idea. I could probably do a half job at the stretches and keep him happy, so I relented. "Damn it, Ben. You have me over a barrel and know it, so I guess I don't have a choice." Ben then shot down my plan when he laughed and said, "Jack, that was too easy and I've known you too long. So don't think you're going to get by doing some half job. You're going to either work your butt off on this or you're going back to Baghdad." I decided to play my ace in the hole, so I slapped it on the table. "What about the Syrian sniper Mustafa? Don't tell me you'd go up against him with a new spotter?" Ben laughed and then trumped my ace in the hole. "Good try, Jack, but your health is more important to me than having to break in a new spotter." He handed me 2 pills and said, "The smaller of the 2 is a pain pill and the larger is a muscle relaxant. Take them both, and then let's go get a shower. I have about a month of stink to get off of me." I took the pills, swallowed them without water, and added a normal for me insult. Hell, I would say it's more like 2 months of stink. The corporal knocked on the door to let us know he was back. We left the room after Ben put a big lock on the hasp he installed on the door. He handed me a key and said, "I only have the 2 keys, so don't lose this." I sarcastically mimicked, "Don't lose this. When the hell have I lost anything you've given me?" Ben laughed and replied, "Hell, Jack had a bad as hell habit of losing everything. He'd lost countless keys for the rooms we'd had in the past, even more keys for the locks on his footlockers. I was tired of picking the footlocker locks, so I now had a spare set of keys for his footlocker. He didn't know it, but I had 10 extra keys for the room, and hoped like hell they'd last until the deployment was over. Hell, he'd lose his head if it wasn't attached. I didn't want to get into it with Jack because I knew it would only make his pain worse, so I simply answered, "Jack, don't get me started on this, or we will never get a shower." The corporal asked, "SGTS, do you mind if I ask you some questions?" Jack snapped at the corporal, "Wasn't that just a question?" I replied, "Again, ignore my spotter." "Sure, what are your questions?" The corporal asked, "Are you too worried about the bounty on your heads?" Surprised, I asked, "What bounty?" Jack interrupted, "Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the scumsuckers knew we were coming and put a bounty on our heads." The corporal gave further information. "That's right. It's $10,000 for Sergeant Blaine and $5,000 for Sergeant Reynolds." Jack laughed, which meant the pain pill was starting to work, so he felt better, and said, "Well, that shows you how little the stupid scumsuckers know. My bounty should have been just as high as Ben's." I ignored Jack's comment and answered, "Hell, it's not the first time this has happened, and it sure won't be the last." "No, Corporal, we're used to it." The corporal asked as we arrived at the showers, "Would you two mind telling me what sniper school was like?" I replied, "Corporal, to answer that question would take days. So, after we finish our shower, why don't we describe some of it over lunch? Then we can tell you more when we are back at the base." The corporal provided more greatly appreciated information. "From the scuttlebutt I've heard, you two aren't going to be spending much time at the base." We took off our filthy BDUs, jumped into the showers, and they felt great. This was especially true since if the corporal was correct, they might be the last showers we have for a while. Flashback, Masha, childcare. The trip to meet Louise at the market took longer than I calculated, so I rushed home while I kept looking over my shoulder in fear of encountering the police car. I arrived home and knew I would have to rush to make dinner for Louise and me. Thank God the walk had tired Linda out, and she wanted a nap. I took her to her room, laid her on a blanket on the floor, and rushed to the kitchen to make our dinner. I whipped up a big pot of borscht for dinner, left it on the stove to simmer while I went to check on Linda. She was still asleep, and I wasn't sure what her normal sleep schedule was, so I decided to wake her up. When I awakened her, I realized I might have made a mistake since she woke up very cranky and began to immediately cry. I picked her up and began to bounce her in the way she normally liked, but it only served to make her crankier. Finally, she settled down, then I remembered the borscht. I ran into the kitchen, still holding Linda, and checked the stove. Thank God the borscht didn't burn. I tasted it, added a little more salt, lemon juice, and dill, tasted it again, and it was perfect. The doorbell rang, so I ran to the front door and was surprised when I saw it was Louise. Then I checked my watch and realized the whole afternoon was gone and Louise's work was over for the day. I opened the door. She walked in and commented, "Wow, something smells really good. Don't tell me you made dinner again?" I smiled at her and replied, "Of course I prepared dinner, and it will be better tonight because I cooked homemade borscht. She asked, "What's borscht?" I answered, "It is beet soup and you will either love it or hate it." As she walked into the house, Linda reached for her. She took Linda in her arms, and I said, "Why don't you get cleaned up for dinner and I will set the table? I do have a few questions to ask over dinner." Louise headed to the bathroom with Linda, and I prepared our evening feast. They came out to the table and Louise asked, "Where's Linda's food?" I hopefully replied, "I thought she might like to eat some borscht with us since it's very healthy and nutritious. The only problem is her diapers will be colored red tonight and tomorrow." Louise laughed and said, "Listen to us talking about dirty diapers before eating this wonderful food." Louise tasted it and swooned. "Wow, this is really great. I never knew what people did with beets until now." She gave a little to Linda, who refused to eat it, and Louise said, "Well, I guess Linda doesn't like it." I was a little embarrassed, so I rushed to the kitchen and said, "I will warm up some baby food for her." It didn't take long in the microwave until I had a meal prepared for Linda. I came back to the table and was shocked when Louise had Linda eating the borscht. I questioned, "How did you make her change her mind?" Louise simply said, "It was easy. I acted like it was the best food in the world, which it practically is, then she wanted some of it." Babies, who can understand them? I sat down, began to eat my borscht, and asked Louise my many questions. Flashback, Jennifer and Glenn, trying to solve a huge problem. Daddy walked into my room, took one look at me, and said, "Jennifer, please tell me you don't blame yourself for Evelyn leaving." I looked down at my bed. A few tears slipped down my cheeks, and I answered, "Well, Daddy, I do sort of blame myself." "If I was—" Daddy interrupted. "Jennifer, get those thoughts out of your mind. You're a great daughter and any parent would be proud of you." The guilt remained as I confessed, "But Daddy, I'm sure it's my fault because I didn't listen to you about the pills. Before I put them back in the toilet tank, I loosened the lids on the bottles and didn't seal the bag tightly." Daddy laughed and answered, "Jennifer, Evelyn never looked at the pills in the guest bathroom before she left. I came home with Daniela, told Evelyn what I was doing. Then the three of us got into a huge fight, and Evelyn gave me an ultimatum. Either Daniela leaves, or she was leaving. And you know how much I like ultimatums." I sarcastically answered by singing the last part. "I thought they were a few of your favorite things." Daddy gave me a dirty look and demanded, "Jennifer, have you been watching The Sound of Music again?" I laughed and answered, "No, Daddy, but I was thinking of the song today, and it became an earworm." Daddy gave me a puzzled look and asked, "What the hell is an earworm?" I laughed and provided the definition. Earworms are songs that get stuck in your head. You know, like the problem you have with the TikTok song from the animated Peter Pan movie. Daddy complained, "Oh great. Now I have that song stuck in my head. How do you get an earworm out of your head?" I was in a much better mood, so I laughed and said, "I have no idea other than to replace it with another." Daddy looked at me and asked, "How about we sing your earworm song?" Daddy had a great voice, but we almost never sang together, so I smiled and started. Then Daddy joined in. The next thing we knew, Daniela showed up and sang the song with us, in Spanish. Flashback, Alexi, at the laboratory. When Father took me back to the laboratory, he said, "Alexi, I need to go and check on your mother. Chow mein really bit her hard today, and the doctors thought she might even require some stitches to close some of the bites. I will stop back by your new room right before I leave." Father left, and I remembered the few times chow mein bit me when we all lived at home. They weren't that bad other than the infection I got from one of them. I decided that my experiments on chow mein were having the desired effect, and soon she would no longer be the constant annoyance that she had become. Did I feel some remorse about what happened to my mother? Yes, I felt some slight remorse, but as my parents always told me, the experiments must continue no matter the cost. Flashback, Mira and Ira, back in Kazakhstan. We discovered a flawless ambush location. It was a narrow trail, surrounded by steep hills on both sides, and represented the perfect place to construct a death funnel. We placed our boots on our lower pedal units in the correct direction and began to construct many expedient field traps. I looked at Ira, oculated one of the steep hills, and suggested, "Ira, do you feel that we could make that large boulder unstable?" Ira smiled at me and concluded, "Yes, Mira, that is entirely possible, and when triggered would decimate many of our pursuers. The only problem is developing a trigger for the trap." I explained, "Ira, I do believe the brief respite your posterior enjoyed in the tributary froze your brain. We will stand behind the boulder and trigger the downward translocation manually." Ira pointed at the trees and stated, "I saw some more traps which we could easily construct, so I pointed and stated, Mira, those low tree branches could be equipped with sharpened spikes as an excellent trap for any who avoided your boulder snare." It was Myra's turn to question, "Ira, I repeat your question, how would we trigger it?" I pointed our boots and respond, "We will use our boot laces across the trail with a 4-figure trigger." Mira supplied a superior suggestion, "Ira, The boot laces are too large and would be noticed. However, there are some clear threads inside this jacket which are currently frayed. They would be more appropriate to harvest for the construction of a trigger. I agreed. Yes, Mira. That would be superior tactic, and once our pursuers are terminated, we can acquire better accoutrements. Mira teased. Yes, Ira. I image your nether regions dislike the feces in your lower accoutrements. I displayed to Mira an inappropriate digit and commented, daylight is a flame. Let us make haste while the sun is still shining. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. Something disturbed the jungle, and the normal sound signature disappeared. I strained my eyes to see the perpetrator without any success. However, I could certainly smell the perpetrator. I smelled the sickly sweet smell of meat and blood and realized that my pursuer wasn't human. I slipped my pistol out of its sheath and waited, still trying to discover the direction of my opponent's approach. A monkey barked to my right and alerted me. I turned toward the monkey's sound just as a tiger charged me. I trained my pistol on the beast's head and began to squeeze off shots. Thank God I had a suppressor on the pistol, or the shots would have scared the jungle animals, and their noise would have alerted everyone to my location. I counted each shot and hoped that I had enough rounds in this magazine to stop the tiger. I kept the count in my mind as the tiger came closer. 10, 11, 12. Finally, the tiger slumped to the ground. It was over, and I realized I really needed to take a piss. Present, Liz and Bernie, at Leadville Airport. We approach a taxi at the airport, but unlike the taxis we are used to riding in, this taxi doesn't have a meter, so I ask, how much to take us to a narcotics store in Leadville? The driver thinks for a moment and says, well, since the airport is so close to town, I figure $3 should cover it. I answer, great. After that, could you take us to the cabin that just burned up? He thinks a bit more and answers, you mean the old blame place? I nod my head and he continues, that would be another $10 because it's a ways out of town. Bernie motions to our luggage and says, let's go. The driver loads the luggage into the trunk. Bernie and I slide into the back seat, and the taxi heads toward town. The taxi driver takes us to the narcotics store, and I decide to ask, we will only be a few minutes. Would it be possible for you to wait for us? The driver surprises us with his answer, yeah, I will wait for 10 minutes if I can charge you an extra $3. I look at Bernie. He smiles at me, and then he says to the driver, great, we will be out in 10 minutes or less. We walk into the narcotics store. The pharmacist looks up from behind his counter, smiles, and says, howdy folks, is there anything I can help you with? I answer, we were wondering where you keep your home pregnancy tests. The pharmacist amazes me with his actions and his answer. He comes around from behind the counter and says, well, if the test is positive, let me be one of the first to congratulate you. Follow me, and I will show you where they are. He takes us to an aisle that's half full of home pregnancy tests, and then he amazingly offers, if you don't mind, I could make some recommendations. I look at the selection and answer, that would be great because there are so many different tests here that it's overwhelming. He takes one off the shelves and says, this test is the most accurate. However, it takes a bit longer than the others to generate the results. In addition, there are 2 tests in the box in case you mess up the first one. I answer, this one will be fine. We walk to the cash register, pay for the test, and the pharmacist asks, now, do you understand how to use this test? I smile and answer, I just pee on a stick and wait, right? He adds a bit more information, yes, but don't forget to use the enclosed wipes to clean first to make sure the result is accurate. We head toward the door, and the pharmacist says, if you have any problems, feel free to come on back. We get outside and Bernie remarks, now that's what I call customer service. I laugh and remark, it's a far cry from what passes for service on the East Coast. We get back into the taxi. The driver takes off toward the cabin and asks, did you both find what you were looking for? I answer, yes, we did. Thank you for asking. Bernie and I hold hands and enjoy the drive to the cabin. The joy turns to sadness when we finally arrive and see how it's once again totally destroyed. I suddenly come up with an idea, and I decide to see how far this customer service goes, so I ask the driver, I don't suppose you could wait for us. The driver interrupts. I can't wait for you here at this cabin, but what I will do is give you my cell phone number so you can call me when you're ready to leave. It will only take me about 30 or 40 minutes to get back here to pick you up. I inquire, what would you charge us for coming back to the cabin? He thinks for a few moments and answers, I figure $10 to come back out here, and then another $10 to take you back to town as fare. I snap up that offer in a New York minute and say, when you come back, we'd like for you to take us to a realtor's office. He smiles and offers, I know just the person to take you to see. She's great. And let me say, this is a great place to live even though the winters can be a little harsh. He hands us a business card with his phone number on it, takes our luggage out of the trunk, sets it on the ground, and waves as he leaves. I punch Bernie in the arm and say, look who's over there. Present, Samantha, at the cabin. I'm doing my report on the cabin as a taxi drives up and Liz and Bernie exit the back seat. Liz sees me, so I motion to the cameraman to stop the video. They stop the video. Then I see Stacy head toward Bernie and Liz. It makes me happy that she's going to handle it, so I motion for the cameraman to continue. Present, Stacy, at the cabin. I've been thinking and have come up with a couple of plans. A taxi drives up and I watch as Liz and Bernie exit the back seat. I head toward them, smile and say, I wondered when you two were going to arrive. It's a travesty what the girls did this to the cabin, and I have my people out looking for them as we speak. Liz agrees. It's more than a travesty, it's pure evil, especially after all Ben and Jens did for them. I ask, so, are you two moving into the tunnels? Liz holds Bernie's hand and Bernie says, no, we're just here to settle some things, then we're going to stay in the hotel for the night and start looking for a house. This is surprising news for me, as from what I understood Liz and Jens were practically joined at the hip. I add my opinion. Leadville is a great little town. The people here are very helpful and friendly. Liz concurs. Yes, the level of customer service they provide is. She seems to be searching for the correct word, so I assist. Exceptional? Yes, it reminds me of the days I spent growing up with my grandmama when I was a little girl. Liz agrees. Yes, exceptional is the perfect word. It's like we went back in time to the 50s or 60s. I'm done with the small talk and bring them back to the thinking about the cabin. I sure hope that Ben and Jennifer's, I can barely make myself say her name, wedding survives the loss of the cabin. Liz gives me a puzzled look and asks, Stacy, I don't understand your statement. Why shouldn't it survive? I smile again. Yes, my face is getting tired from all the smiles, and reply, well, Jennifer, there's that name again, has always seemed to me to have some serious mental problems. Liz smiles and answers, I wouldn't worry about that. Jens' mental problems were all resolved when she married Ben. I inject some doubt. Liz, your support of Jennifer, UGH, is admirable, but I think you're too close to her to really look at things objectively. After my assault, I had extensive counseling, and therefore it's easy for me to notice Jennifer's problems. I can tell my words have struck a possible chord when Liz creates a diversion and asks, damn, I wonder who hired Samantha? I smile and answer, Liz, your friendship and love for Jennifer have clouded your judgment. If it had been anyone else's bodies other than Jennifer's mother, you would have ordered Samantha to immediately do the story. And once you fired her, I had no choice but to hire her. Shock masks Liz's face when she questions, Stacy, what do you know about running a television station? I truthfully answer, Liz, I have no idea either how to run or what to do with a television station. But I'm sure I will eventually figure it out if I hire the right people. It is a shame, however, that you lost your ace reporter Samantha. I can see Liz thinking, then she asks, Stacy, can you give Bernie and me a few minutes to talk? I smile, point toward the van, and say, sure, Liz, I will be right over there if you need me. I turn and smile as I walk to the van. Present, Liz and Bernie, at the cabin. Stacy is different than I thought she would be and has given me beaucoup things to think about. I'm sure that some of it is bullshit, but some of it is probably the truth. I look at Bernie and say, Bernie, I'm going to ask you something difficult to answer, and I want you to promise to tell me the truth. Bernie complains, damn, Liz, you're going to put me between a rock and a hard place. I don't have the time to care because I need Bernie's honest evaluation of something, so I just blurted out, Bernie, do you feel it was a mistake for me to fire Samantha? Bernie waffles, well, Liz, it's sort of like. I interrupt. Bernie, I can tell by your inability to answer what your real answer is. Now what do you think about Stacy hiring Samantha? Bernie has no problem voicing his opinion when he emphatically states, Liz, I have to think of you, and also think of the Truth Network. I have to honestly say that it's not good for the network that we lost Samantha, and it's even worse that Stacy hired her. She has enough money that she could damage the Truth Network's ratings. I suggest, perhaps we could hire Samantha back from Stacy. Bernie chuckles and says, Liz, those two are as close as you and Jens, so I don't think there's any way that Stacy would let us hire Samantha back. And if she did, you need to realize that you would have no control over Samantha. I postulate, I don't know. It seems to me from the way she was talking that Stacy was giving us an opening to possibly rehire Samantha. And you're right, I wouldn't have any control over Samantha, but I do feel bad about quashing the story about Evelyn. Hell, Samantha did exactly what I would have done when I was younger. Bernie chuckles and agrees. Yeah, I can remember those days and how much trouble you got us into. I laugh and counter. Bernie, I remember you stirred up the hornet's nest several times yourself. He laughs with me and says, Liz, take a good look at Samantha. When did the two of us get so damn old? I counter, speak for yourself, old man. Let's head over to Stacy and see if we can negotiate with her. Bernie wisely cautions, Liz, let's just make sure we don't give Stacy the whole farm. I tease, Bernie, I thought we were getting a house. Now you want a farm? Bernie chuckles as we walk hand in hand toward Stacy. Present, Stacy and Samantha, at the cabin. I was concerned that Liz might not come over to talk to me, especially since she and Bernie seemed to talk forever. I smile internally when they begin to walk toward the van, hoping the seeds I planted were going to take root. Liz walks up, looks at me, and doesn't beat around the bush when she asks, Stacy, what would it cost for us to hire Samantha back from you? Good, this plan has seemed to work, so I reply, Liz, I think that's a subject that's better discussed with all four of us together. I motion to Samantha. She stops her report, comes over, looks at Liz, grins, and says to me, You called me boss? I smile at Samantha and mention, Samantha, I think that Liz is having some misgivings about firing you. Liz shakes her head and adds, Yes, that's correct. I was premature in firing you. We should have talked about it more. Samantha plays hardball when she says, I am a little confused since I thought I was going to work for Stacy, and now Liz wants me back with the Truth Network. I am looking forward to working for Stacy, but I did love working for the Truth Network. I look at Liz and answer, Liz, you didn't fire me. If you remember, I quit after you bitched at me about my story on the bodies found at Ben and Jennifer's wedding. Stacy catches my eye, and I can tell from the look on her face she doesn't like my response. Liz replies, Samantha, I think we are both at fault. Me for trying to protect Jens and you for doing the story and then sneaking it onto the air. I think that Stacy is running one of her plans, so I decide to tone it down some and reply, Liz, I'm sorry that I snuck it onto the air, but sooner or later someone was going to tell the story, so I figured it might as well be me. Liz says, Well, I took care of Jens finding out about the story on her honeymoon, so no damage is done there. Stacy's voice catches slightly as she asks, Liz, how did you take care of that? Liz chuckles and answers, Oh, I forgot to tell all of you. They went to dinner one night, and someone told them about the cabin. Jens called me and wanted to know what happened, so I gave her the details. I called Jens back after I found out about your story on Evelyn and told Ben about the story. From what I understand, Jens is practically holding him hostage in the honeymoon suite, doing what she called sunbathing. I notice a few tears in the corner of Stacy's eyes and know she's really hurting. I want to go and comfort her, so I cut to the chase. Liz, I will come back to the Truth Network as long as you never ever pull a stunt on me like you did on the story about the bodies. Liz smiles and says, Samantha, welcome back to the Truth Network. Now, we're going into the tunnels so I can deal with some other problems. I move to Stacy's side and hold her as she begins to cry. Present, Jack, Masha, and the children, on the C-130. I remember hearing about how my Jack's back was injured on the flight to Ramadi, how the terrible Captain M covered it up so he wouldn't get in trouble for it, and how Ben once again helped Jack by coming up with medicine for his back. However, the medicine presented some problems of its own. With Ivan holding Veronica and singing to her, both she and Ivan have settled down. Now I need to take care of my Jack. I kneel beside him on the floor, begin to massage his lower back, feel a massive number of knots in the muscles, and realize no simple massage can cure his problem. I tell Jack, honey, my massage isn't going to fix this, so I'm going to get you a pain pill and a muscle relaxer from my purse. Jack countermands my thoughts. Masha, there's no way in hell I'm taking any pills for this back. Help me back into my seat. Give me a few shots of bourbon, and I will be fine until we get to the tunnels where I can get in the hot tub. I carefully help Jack rise and return to his seat. He grimaces in pain the entire time. Once he's in the seat, I check Veronica's diaper bag and say, Jack, we don't have any bourbon. All we have is a bottle of vodka I was using on Veronica's gums because she is teething. Jack says, vodka, bourbon, it doesn't matter. Just give me the bottle. I remove the bottle from Veronica's diaper bag, unscrew the lid, and hand it to Jack. He tips it back and drinks an incredible volume of vodka. I want to caution him, however, I know that vodka is less dangerous than the pills he would take. He shocks me even more when he tips the bottle back again and takes an equally large drink. The pilot announces, please fasten your seatbelts as we will be landing at Leadville in about 10 minutes. I get up, take Veronica out of Ivan's hands, and make sure his seatbelt is fastened. Then I put her in her car seat. I also check to make sure Jack's seatbelt is fastened, take the bottle out of his hand, and say, Jack, we need to put this away for right now. The almost full bottle is now only half full, and Jack is beginning to feel the effects of such a large dose of vodka. I hope I can find some assistance for us, because I will be unable to take Jack and 2 children to the cabin by myself. Present, Tom and Inga, time to fish or cut bait. Inga has been missing in action, and I've been fuming over what to do about her ultimatum. The pilot announces, please fasten your seatbelts as we will be landing at Leadville in about 10 minutes. I see Inga walking back toward my seat and sigh. This isn't going to be easy. She takes the seat beside me and asks, well, Tom, what is your decision? I look at her and reply, Inga, if you know me, you well know that I will never bow my knee to an ultimatum. It was great working with you. I will always miss you, and I hope you're happy in your new position with SIFs. She shocks me when she begins to laugh and loudly yells, "I told all of you. Now it's time to pay up." It seems like 90% of the people on the plane come by and start handing money to Inga. I glare at her and demand, "What the hell is going on?" Inga doesn't answer because she's too busy laughing. One of the guys stops after he hands Inga a big wad of money and says, "Tom, we were all played by Inga." I'm confused, so I answer, "What the hell are you talking about?" He complains, "Tom, thanks a lot. I lost a month's worth of pay." Inga bet damn near everyone on the flight that if she gave you an ultimatum to either start a relationship with her or she would leave, that you would let her leave. I look at Inga. She has that twinkle in her eyes, finally stops laughing, and says, "Gotcha, Tom." I frown at her and ask, "So does this mean you're not changing teams?" Inga begins to laugh again. She can barely answer but squeaks out, "Don't be silly. Who would give you grief if I left? I should be pissed off and give her shit, but I'm just happy she stayed on my team. I would have missed her." Present, Glenn and Hammer, in Leadville trying to find Evelyn's body. I determined that the bodies weren't at Stacy's building because she didn't care about us searching it. Once again, Hammer was a pain in the butt when he asked her for a drink. Because of that and the threat that I accidentally made, Stacy called her lawyer, who promptly handed the sheriff his butt, and that was it for searching her building. We're back at the sheriff's office licking our wounds when I asked the sheriff, "Day ye hay a recordin', I report Samantha did own my wife's body." He answers, "Hell, you probably won't need one since it's been on almost nonstop since they started to show it." He turns on the television, switches to the Truth Network, and we see Samantha reporting on the fire at the cabin. I look at the sheriff and ask, "I thought ye said that you would continue to show it." He frowns and mutters, "Damn, it felt like they were looping it. I wonder why they stopped." I think for a moment before asking, were there any identifiable background images that could help us determine where the report was recorded? He shakes his head, dashing my last hope. "No, sir. We watched it multiple times, just a plain white sheet in the background." Hammer yawns and stretches. "Glenn, I think I'm going to head out and find something to do." I glare at him. "Hammer, don't try to sugarcoat that nonsense. I know exactly what you want, to find the nearest bar and get wasted again." Hammer shoots me a defiant look. "And so what if I do? I need a drink, and you're not my mother, so you can't stop me." I don't have time to deal with his drinking problem right now. Instead, I lean toward the sheriff and warn him about the trouble Hammer will cause if he starts drinking. Then, I offer a suggestion. The sheriff smirks. "You know, that's actually a great idea." Hammer, suspicious, asks, "What's a brilliant idea?" The sheriff stands up. "Hammer, you're under arrest." Hammer snaps, "What the hell for? I haven't done anything." The sheriff replies calmly, "Vagrancy." He steps forward to take Hammer by the arm. Hammer makes the mistake of trying to throw a punch, but the sheriff is quicker. Before Hammer can react, the sheriff pulls out his taser and shocks the hell out of him. Hammer slumps to the floor, unconscious. The sheriff turns to me. "Since this was your idea, how about helping me get him into the cell?" We each grab an arm, haul him into a cell, and as the sheriff steps out, he slams the door shut behind me. "What the hell are you doing?" I demand. The sheriff chuckles. "If Hammer's a vagrant, then so are you. Besides, I can't have you two running loose in my county, interfering with my investigation into the body's location." I grit my teeth. "I'm no damn vagrant. My daughter lives in the cabin that was burned down." The sheriff laughs. "Oh, should I call her and interrupt her honeymoon to confirm your story?" Damn, the bastard has me cornered. I sigh. "No, don't bother Jennifer on her honeymoon." He gives me a glimmer of hope. "By the way, Ben and I were best friends in high school, so I'm highly motivated to find your wife's body." I nod. "Godspeed, Sheriff." As he leaves, I kick Hammer off the cot onto the floor, claim the cot for myself, and decide to take a nap. Present, Safia, Ira, and Mira, on the hunt. Mira wants to ask around at local businesses about Alexi's 304 and Yasmin. I suggest, "Mira, perhaps it would be better if I handle the questioning instead of you or Ira." Mira demands, "Safia, why would you inquiring with the proprietors be superior to the identical action taken by either of us?" I am concerned that Mira is so volatile right now that she would threaten the proprietors, but I'm sure the hell not going to tell her that, so I use another fact. "Mira, you and Ira use a unique way of speaking which the proprietors might not understand." Ira supports my statement. "My sister Mira is very hormonally irrational and explosive." Thank God Safia recognizes this and offers to inquire regarding the location of the terrible teenagers. I agree with Safia. "Mira, Safia is correct. If we allow her to interrogate the proprietors, it will save a large interval of precious time." Thank God Mira still recognizes some reason and answers, "Yes, Ira." Using Safia might facilitate finding the terrible teenagers in a judicious manner. However, if she does not perform this task properly, I will assume the mantle of such responsibility. We enter the first commerce of establishment. Safia walks up to the proprietor, beams at the female, and verbalizes an excellent falsehood. "Excuse me, ma'am. We were separated from two of our friends and hoped that you could tell us if you saw them. They were younger than us, and both carried backpacks." The proprietor smiles at Safia and replies, "Gracious young lady, you have such good manners. Yes, I did see two younger women with backpacks. They got out of the back of Fred's pickup truck and walked down the street in that direction." She indicates the direction by pointing with one of her digits. Safia poses another excellent inquiry. "Did you by any chance see where they went?" The proprietor shakes her head and replies, "Sorry, miss, but I only saw them through the window and didn't bother to go out on the street and watch them." She pauses, seems to contemplate for a short period of time, snaps her digits, and vocalizes, "You know, I bet if you asked Sally at the beauty shop, which is right down the street, she could tell you where they went because she's the town gossip and would have watched the two new girls." Safia smiles and closes the inquiry. "Thank you, ma'am. You have been very helpful." We begin to leave, and the proprietor says, "I hope you find your friends." Mira angrily replies, "We most certainly will find them, and they will most certainly regret it." We rush down the street, find the commerce of beauty. Safia looks at us and cautions, "Perhaps the two of you should wait on the bench?" I question, "What purpose would that serve?" Safia states, "One of us, dressed the way we are, would not create as large a spectacle as all three of us." Mira says, I look at Safia and state, "Safia, while your queries with the primary proprietor were excellent, I would like to facilitate the queries with Sally before the terrible teenagers vacate this village." Safia frowns at me and disagrees. "Mira, if you confront Sally, it will be a mistake." I scoff, "Safia, it will not be, and I will prove it to you." I rush into the commerce of beauty, noting there are 5 women ensconced within. I swing my rifle toward the 5 and order, "Which corporeal self is Sally?" Safia says, "My friend won't hurt you, she just wants to know which one of you is Sally." I clarify Safia's false assumption, "No, I will not hurt you. However, if this Sally does not reveal herself, I will begin to terminate everyone else." A woman ensconced in a very ugly pink laboratory coat raises her hand, stands up, and says, "I'm Sally. What in the hell do you mean coming into my business waving your gun at everyone? You should be ashamed of yourself." I glare at her and reply, "I feel no shame for my actions as they are justified by the critical nature of our mission. You will provide me with information on the final location of the 2 younger girls carrying packs on their backs that translocated across the interior of your commerce of establishment." Safia says, "My friend would like to know if you saw 2 younger girls who looked like us walk by earlier, and if you did, do you know where they went?" The woman named Sally swore, "Hell, kill all of us if you want. We're not telling you anything." The other females stood up in defiance. "That's right, we're not telling you anything. You can take the rifle and shove it up your butt. I'm calling the sheriff." Safia takes my arm and says, "Mira, if we don't leave now and the sheriff comes, we will never be able to find them." In anger, I fire a stream of projectiles into the commerce's ceiling. The females vocalize loudly like young females, and we depart the commerce of beauty without obtaining any information. Present, Alexei, leaving the tunnels under the cabin. I receive a call from Zarika, and she informs me that she's pregnant with my child. Safia's threat echoes in my ear. "Alexei, if she is pregnant, I will kill both of you, so I know I have to do something." I talk Zarika into telling me where she is, and as I begin to leave the tunnels, meet Liz and Bernie entering the tunnels. Liz questions, "Hello, Alexei, where are your sisters? I would like to speak with them." I answer, "Hello, Bernie and Liz, they left hours ago. They are looking for Yasmin and Zarika to exact a revenge for them destroying the cabin and all our accoutrements." Liz frowns and says, "Alexei, if you see them before I do, tell them they are fired as my bodyguards." I lie as I leave. I will make sure to tell them that. There's no way in Hades I will deliver this message to my irate, irascible, insane sisters. I place the value on my life greater than that. I arrive at the building where Zarika said she was hiding, open the door, walk inside, and I can't believe what happens. Present, Yasmin and Zarika, on the run. Alexei foolishly walks into the abandoned building we found and yelled, "Zarika, where are you?" I walk around the corner, point my rifle at him, and order, "Zarika, search him to make sure he didn't bring any weapons." Zarika approaches him but doesn't listen to me. She clubs him over his head with the butt of her rifle. He falls unconscious to the ground, and she begins to kick him. I yell, "Zarika, stop. You will kill him." Zarika laughs and says, "The scumsucker deserves worse than this." I continue my orders, "Zarika, open the big car doors while I drive his car inside the building." She opens the door as I drive his car inside. Now we just need to wait for the people I called, and of course the twins and Safia. Dear listeners, next part of the story will be released soon. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.